Made in America show right here on King's Broadcasting Network. And now I'd like to welcome our co-host, the Made in America guy himself. It's been a while, a couple of weeks. It's been traveling the country, and he's just been, he's been gathering all that dirt that we keep hearing about on the national media. So he's going to kind of straighten us out here. So we hear from the horse's mouth. So straight from the studios right there, the Shell Manufacturing Studios, the Made in America guy himself, Mr. Greg Owens. Greg, how you doing, my buddy?
I'm doing well, Michael. How are you?
I need to tell you, we struggled the last 2 weeks without you, man. It was rough.
Really?
Man. It was rough, but we got you through, and America's responding. Greg, there's a lot going on. I really need to jump right into this thing. You spent a couple of weeks in Washington, D.C. You went around the country talking to U.S. manufacturers. There's a lot going on with the tariffs. It seems like the tariffs are really taking over the news cycle. So what's going on? Just kind of give us a Reader's Digest version of what's happening right now before we bring on our guests.
Well, it's been kind of a wild ride, so I can give you the Reader's Digest of what's going on in the last 4 hours, but that may change. Probably the biggest thing that's happened is the trade court, which is an obscure court, came in and made a ruling on the IEEPA tariffs, which President Trump announced as reciprocal tariffs, and basically said that he cannot invoke that 1970s law because they don't consider the billions and billions of dollars in trade deficits that we're running to be a national crisis, which is a bizarre interpretation, in my opinion. They will, of course, be appealing that process. I spoke with some of the trade attorneys down in D.C., and they always thought that there was room for somebody to argue what has been argued and passed by that court. They really like the use of the 232 steel and aluminum tariffs and getting those extended to downstream products, which are the things that are made out of steel and aluminum. And that one is going full speed ahead. In fact, comments close on the 4th, and the Commerce Department has 90 days to make up their mind and approve or disapprove.
Wow. So it's we can't always believe what we hear in the media. If you listen to the conservative side, you get a conservative view, and then you listen to the liberal progressive view, you get their side. Now I'm going to get off the subject just for like 30 seconds. And this is, and only because I think it's important, is that the scare tactics that are being used by the, it seems, now the new scare tactics that's going on from the, let's say, the liberal side of the spectrum is now being attacked as the Social Security. And I've gotten 50 emails because everybody knows that I'm a conservative. I'm not a Republican. I'm a conservative. I'm a raunch conservative, mostly on the libertarian views. And I obviously I'm a Trump fan. I mean, I believe in what he's doing. I believe in the policies, and but at the end of the day, now what's going out there is he's going to eliminate. Listen to this. He's going to eliminate Social Security for the elders. Eliminate, not throw. He's eliminating it. So this is it's just the same old tactics. And I just advise people like we're trying to do here: do your own research. Do your own and come to the determination on the tariffs. Is Trump really trying to get rid of Social Security for the elderly? You see what I'm saying? How they keep going to that playbook? It's just horrible. Yeah. They believe it.
You pick up, I don't care whether it's liberal or conservative magazines, television, whatever you pick up. The news is all editorialized, and a lot of people don't realize that. They think we still live in the days of Walter Cronkite, when you couldn't tell what side he was on. But I'll speak to the tariff thing. The information that's published in well-known establishments like the Wall Street Journal, if you if you're being kind to the reporters, you'll just say that this is a subject that we know an awful lot about, and they just don't really know a lot about it, even though they're writing on it. In other circumstances, you look at it, and some of those reporters know perfectly well that they're giving a lopsided version of reality,
Yeah.
and they're just hit pieces on tariffs.
And not that I want to bring up the new Social Security thing, but the point is, you understand my point here.
It's a lie.
It's a lie, and like the Medicare and the Medicaid lie. Yeah, he's going to throw off people that could go to work that's committing fraud. Yeah, they're going to get that's in the bill. But Medicaid and Medicare is not getting cut. You understand what I'm saying? For legitimate people that need the help. I mean, who's not for that? Who is not for waste, fraud, and abuse? Who's not for it?
Look at how they went after Elon Musk. I mean, here was a guy who was the hero of a lot of people on the left, and then all of a sudden he gets in there and Doge, and he's on Trump's side. And now all of a sudden he's the villain, just like Trump himself. He was well received in Hollywood and all those sort of circles, and then he got into politics, and of course now he's the evil guy. So it's the same from the other side going the other way.
Washington,
you just got to ignore most of it.
Washington is a cesspool. Washington is the trash of the trash, and both sides. I'm not picking a side here because when the other side's in office, the other side. It's just the way it is. They protect
the buildings are beautiful.
Yeah, the buildings are gorgeous, the architecture, but these politicians protect their golden city, and they're not going to allow the voters, the unpaid bureaucrats own it. They're embedded in it. You can do whatever you want to try to attack it. But at the end of the day, again, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago before you went out there. We talked about the other day. The only advantage that Trump has right now, he don't give a you-know-what. He really don't, because he's only got 4 years. So he's going to make decisions to know that he can't run again. You understand? So he can make the hard decisions. And at the end of the day, you've got to agree that Trump loves America. How can you not? I mean, you got to have your right mind to not understand what he's doing.
I agree, and it's going to be a battle just like it was last time. It'll be different, and then when the next guy gets in there, it'll be more of the same thing. But you said at the beginning, the most important thing is you have to listen to it all, believe very little of it, and form your own conclusions. What do you actually see happening out on Main Street? Has the price of everything from China really gone up 150%? No, it hasn't. Will it go up at all? I don't even know. Nobody knows.
Yeah. And we're going to find out. We're going to let the market, we're going to let free enterprise, free commerce take care of the market, because it's going to adjust. It's going to adjust. It's going to dictate. But who needs to be concerned right now, who really needs to be concerned, is the EU. They are really concerned right now, no matter what press they put out there right now. But at the end of the day, that's what all this boils down to. The EU, the European Union. This is what all this boils down to. Our survival with these guys.
They're throwing a fit about doing to them what they've been doing to us for decades. So you're gonna put a 28% tariff on our cars coming into the EU and turn around and issue a 28% rebate on their VAT tax to cars going to the United States. No, I'm sorry, that's not right. And they can pitch all the fits they want, but it's going to be corrected.
But what he did over the weekend with the steel in Pennsylvania, that I mean, how can anybody not deny what he did? Walked in there and he just told them, your lives are going to change right now. Because guess what? We're going to produce American steel from American companies, from American workers at a great American state that knows what they're doing down there and not destroy them. Well, we got to take a short break. A lot going on. This is the Made in America show, along with the Made in America guy, Mr. Greg Owens, and the Cajun contractor, Michael King. We'll be right back. here on the Kings Broadcasting Network. Don't forget to check out our website at HomeTalkUSA.com if you want more information about Made in America, Mr. Greg Owens, even Cheryl Manufacturing. Check it out. Archives, check out our television show. Everything is sitting there. But Made in America guy, we miss you. Greg, who's our first guest?
Our first guest today is, and our only guest today, I guess, is Roger Simmermaker. He's an author, and he recently retired. We're going to talk to him a little bit about his background and some of the books that he's written and what his take is on all of this tariffs and everything else that's going on in the world of international trade. So, Roger, I'm going to welcome you here in a minute, but before we get to that, I'd like to throw a big shout out to our sponsor for this segment, Bond Products. For DIY carpet bonding, there's only one InstaBond. You can find it at bondproducts.com. Roger, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Great to be on with you.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. And I'd like to start out with all of our guests, particularly the first time, and this is the first time you've been on, to let you talk a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, what your jobs have been, and then we'll get into what led you to be such an advocate for American manufacturing. So, who's Roger?
Well, I grew up in Central Illinois and lived in Florida for about 38 years, where I worked for one of America's largest defense contractors on a U.S. Navy contract, and retired from that and lived back in the Midwest now in St. Louis, Missouri, which is kind of close to home. So it was like coming home for me after I retired. And I'm just enjoying retirement, and I can devote my full time now to my real passion, which is buying American and a common sense trade policy and educating people how they can buy American in the purest sense of the term.
So what did you do specifically for the contractor? Were you a manager, a supervisor? Were you in the trades? What was your role or roles?
What I did was, I worked in the telemetry ground station where we tracked launches, collected the data, recorded the data, analyzed the data for the Trident II Fleet Ballistic Missile program. And I was also on the Space Shuttle program for about a little over 3 years, went back to the U.S. Navy side. And, it was a great job. And in addition to the ground station work, we would actually work on the equipment that simulated the missile to make it think it's flying, but when it was in the submarine before we popped it out of the tube. So a lot of interesting stuff going back all those years.
Nice. And what was it about your experience in the real world of working on all these interesting things got you so interested in American manufacturing, buying American products, and trade policy?
I got involved in politics basically when Ross Perot ran for president in 1992, and he talked a lot about patriotism, buying American, against NAFTA, bad trade deals like that. And I went shopping in 1994, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to make sure I buy some clothing made in the USA today. And I had such trouble doing that I got upset about it, decided to do something about it, because I talked to the managers in the stores. I looked on the racks. People couldn't help me. I couldn't find anything made in America. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to be that guy, because I researched in libraries trying to find a consumer guide to educate people how they can find and buy American products. And I just really came up empty-handed. So I decided I was going to be that person, wrote my first book in 1996, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, you just brought up something really interesting, clothing, and how to find, clothing that's made in the U.S. Back in the 1980s, early 1980s, 80% of the clothing in the United States was made right here in this country. Now it's less than 8%. And there are a couple companies out there, All American Clothing. In fact, I'm wearing one of their golf shirts right now. Fantastic shirt. And one of the interesting things is that the collar, this shirt's probably 5 years old. The collar still looks great. And for a golf shirt, the cheap ones that you get at the store, those collars wrinkle up, and you have your shirt for a year, and then you got to throw it out and get a new one. So, and it wasn't a ridiculously priced thing either. It was $35 or something like that online. So we've done some work at CPA on country of origin labeling for the internet, which is one of the things that would be very helpful in facilitating Americans who are looking for American-made products to know where they're actually made. Did you write about that in any of your books, the cool legislation?
I believe I mentioned, as you know, it's gone through several ups and downs, in and outs. So I wrote about it, I believe, the status at that particular time. I'm not sure exactly what the status was at the moment. I'd have to go back and look. But it's definitely a very important piece of legislation. And that's the purpose of the books that I write, whether it's country of origin labeling, just educating, anything that can educate the consumer so they know where their money's going, who's making the products they're buying. And my book actually goes a step further. I like to convince people or educate people, encourage them to buy just not American-made products, but also from American-owned companies, because American-made means the workers are here, the production is here. But it's only, it's less than 10% manufacturing workers right now in the United States. So that leaves over 90% of the jobs left over. So you have engineering, advertising, development, research and development, design, administration. If it's an American-owned company, those jobs are more likely to be here. So it's not just the 8 or 9 or 10% manufacturing jobs in the United States we need to advocate for. It's all American jobs. And the best way to do that is buy an American-made product from an American-owned company.
Well, I couldn't agree more. In that country of origin labeling, ups and downs, it's been mostly downs. We actually had it. I say we bunch of people advocating for it in the omnibus spending bill two Congresses ago, and it got thrown out when they changed that bill to Build Back Better, which really didn't have anything to do with manufacturing. Truly unfortunate. We really thought we had that one over the finish line, but hopefully this Congress, it will be reintroduced. And when people are shopping online, just like they do in the store, it's required by law that you put country of origin on the package. They'll be able to see it online. Well, we got to take a short break here, Roger, but when we come back, we'll get into your books. This is Greg Owens. This is the Made in America Hour on Home Talk USA on the King Broadcasting Network. We will be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Home Talk USA on the King Broadcasting Network. This is the Made in America Hour. I'm your host, Greg Owens, here with Roger Simmermaker. We're going to talk about his books here in a minute. But before we do that, I wanted to give a big shout out to our sponsor for this segment, Aztec Washer. Revolutionary and innovative roofing products since 1968. Their motto is seal it right, seal it tight. You can find them at aztecwasher.com. Roger, welcome back. And when we first met, I don't know how many years ago it was at a CPA event, I believe it was, you introduced me to your book. And you have a couple iterations of that and a new one coming out. So why don't you talk a little bit about, follow up on what we talked about last segment, what inspired you to write this book, how you gathered the information, what you learned, and what's in that first book?
Well, the main thing that got me interested in buying American, like I talked about, was at Ross Perot back in the 1990s. And that's when I started writing books and really learned to emphasize not just in my third edition. My most current is the third edition, and I have a fourth edition coming out next year. But it really broadens the Buy American picture to Buy American in what I call the purest sense of the term. We need to buy American-made products and also from American-owned companies. Because when it's an American-owned company, the profits either come back to America or stay in America, and the taxes on those profits are paid to the U.S. Treasury. Everybody knows we're several trillion dollars in debt, way too many trillions of dollars in debt. It has to be paid, so we need that revenue. And you can literally double the amount of revenue you put into the U.S. Treasury just by buying an American-owned company's product made in the USA versus a foreign-owned company's product made in the USA. One way that most people can identify to illustrate that is you can buy a Chevrolet made in the USA or you can buy a Toyota made in the USA. If you buy the Toyota, profits will go overseas to reward foreign owners, foreign investors, and foreign stockholders. And they will pay those profits to foreign treasuries. So we're still sending money out of the country, even if we're buying something made in the USA. But we don't have to talk about big ticket items. We can just start very simply in the supermarket where we spend more of our time and probably more of our money. For instance, you can buy either Lysol detergent or Lysol disinfectant or Clorox disinfectant. Clorox is based in the United States. Lysol is owned by a UK company called Reckitt. Used to be called Reckitt Benckiser. Now it's just Reckitt. They're both made in America, but the Clorox is American owned, so the profits will stay here and we'll pay taxes on those profits to the US Treasury. That's the important thing. Another example is Irish Spring is American owned and American made. Dial is owned by a German company. Jergens is owned by a Japanese company. All of those products are made in the USA, but the difference is the ownership, where the profits go, where the taxes are paid, and which national economy ultimately benefits.
Yeah, taxes are an important aspect of international trade, as you're pointing out, and it goes even further beyond what you're talking about. Like here in our hometown of Charlotte, New York, when Oneida Limited owned our factory, it was valued in the many, many millions of dollars. And when we took over, of course, the value went down because we were a small fraction of their size and weren't operating a facility with 2,300 employees. What happened as a result of that is the basis that the taxes for the school and for the community were calculated on was decimated. It went down by 35% or 35 times, I should say. So how does the municipality afford to pay to send the kids to school? They have to turn around and raise the taxes on the residents. How do they afford to fix the roads? They have to turn around. So the implications of sending all of our jobs overseas and closing factories down go far beyond assembly line workers who are going to lose their job. It's also engineers, it's mechanics, it's the trades, it's cost accountants, and it's municipalities scrambling to figure out how they're going to pay the bills.
Absolutely. And we have to remember that American workers are the only workers who pay taxes to America. Workers in China, Bangladesh, name your foreign country, they don't pay a dime towards Social Security, towards national defense, towards our military, our infrastructure, all these important things that we the people demand from the use of our tax dollars. It's not being paid because we're employing workers in foreign countries who don't pay taxes to America. So it's really kind of an unfunded mandate. We're saying we want to buy something more cheaply overseas and save some money, but we're buying it from someone who's not paying taxes to fund the benefits that we expect. I'm sure a lot of people hope and expect that Social Security is going to be there. Medicare is going to be funded. Whatever your issue is, we have to have revenue, and the best way to get that revenue is buying an American-made product from an American-owned company.
Well, and look at President Trump and his argument with the EU. We were talking a little bit about this in the first segment with Michael, but you manufacture a car in the EU, you have to pay their 28% VAT tax. Well, that VAT tax they collect on everything from their own people. That funds their socialized medicine and their socialized pension programs. So the first thing that happens to an American car when we try and export it to Germany or any company in the EU is we pay that VAT tax. So the American company is paying that tax. The first thing they do when they want to sell a Volkswagen in the United States is they actually give them a rebate of all the VAT taxes that they paid for that automobile to make it cheaper to export to the United States. And the president and his trade advisors are calling their bluff on that, and they don't want to talk about it. It's pretty easy to understand why they wouldn't want to talk about it, because he's got them dead to rights.
Well, I'm very happy to see President Trump institute these broad-based tariffs. That is the best way to collect revenue. It's better than the direct tax system. If you think of it through the direct tax system, if the government wants to collect $1, it has to tax you exactly $1. There's no escape from that. But what we found is some of these companies that have been importing products, for instance, back in 2018, when Trump put 25% tariffs on China, Buick makes a SUV in China. They asked for a waiver to not have to pay the 25% tariff. That waiver was denied by President Trump. What did they do? They said, okay, we're not going to raise the price. We're just going to import the car anyway. So the government collected the revenue. The revenue went into the U.S. Treasury. The consumer didn't pay a dime more. Hyundai has said they're not going to raise prices. Home Depot has said they're not going to raise prices. So we still collect revenue with the tariff system, even though we have these tariffs and the consumer doesn't pay an extra dime as a result of the tariff.
Well, Roger, we have a couple minutes left in this segment. Why don't you throw out a little teaser on your new book that's coming out?
Well, the new book is the 4th edition of How Americans Can Buy American. It'll be very much like the 3rd edition, which had over 20,000 American and foreign products and services listed in the book, so you can easily identify what's American and what's not. And then there's chapters in the book talking about the auto industry, trade policy, and those types of subjects. So it's a really all-encompassing book, but it helps to, like I said, give the consumer the information to buy an American-made product, not just any American-made product, but one made by an American-owned company, to keep all that money here where we need it circulating within our national borders.
So remind the audience of the title of the book, and then where do we go to find it? Where do we go to buy it?
The title of the book is How Americans Can Buy American, and the website is www.howtobuyamerican.com, all spelled out.
That's pretty clear and straightforward. And then are you coming out with another book after that?
Well, my most recent book was a trade policy book titled Unconstitutional. Our founding fathers rejected free trade, and so should we, is the subtitle. And that was a bit of a diversion of what I normally do. I normally write books about buying American, but Trump was elected president the first time around. I thought the time was right to write a book about trade. I had put chapters about trade policy, including the Smoot-Hawley tariff, in previous Buy American books because I felt so strongly about it.
All right, well, we're going to have to take a quick break here. We'll be right back, and we'll continue our conversation during the Made in America Hour on Home Talk USA. Welcome back, everybody. This is Home Talk USA on the King Broadcasting Network. This is the Made in America Hour, and I'm your host, Greg Owens, here with Roger Simmermaker. Before we get back with Roger, I'd like to give a shout out to Lion Energy, who's sponsoring this segment of the show. You can go anywhere with portable power solar generators. You can find them at lionenergy.com. Well, Roger, welcome back. And when we left off, we were talking a little bit about your books and what they go through. And I wanted to segment and get your thoughts. We spent some time together down in D.C. a couple of weeks ago at the Coalition for a Prosperous America conference. We heard from Jameson, oh boy, senior moment, our U.S. Trade Representative, and a couple of other government officials, people from the Office of Management and Budget, about what's going on with tariffs and trade and all that. So what was your big takeaway from the conference, and what are you really focused on right now in terms of the realignment of international trade?
It's really hard to take away and really highlight any one particular thing at the conference. There was so much information, and it was all such good information. And of course, the U.S. Trade Representative being there was great. Rick Scott from Florida, where I used to live in Florida, so he used to be my senator. It was good to see him speak, and just a lot of people talk about the need to have a common sense trade policy. And what I talk about in my book, Unconstitutional, is how free trade really is unconstitutional, because no founding national document, including the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, mentions free trade or free markets in any sense of those terms. And I don't think the founders included or advocated for free trade because it was simply never intended. So it really is unconstitutional because our Constitution says we are to regulate commerce with foreign nations. And it mentions duties, which is just, as you know, another word for tariffs. So tariffs are in the Constitution, free trade isn't, and we need to get back to those founding national virtues and values like self-reliance, independence, and self-sufficiency.
Well, what a lot of people don't know, and we've talked about it several times on this program, is that the entire federal government was funded through the collection of tariffs up until about World War II, when income taxes came into play. People didn't pay income taxes for the first 100 or so years of our country, and there was a desire among those running the country for hundreds of years to support American manufacturing because it is a huge factor in national security. One of the reasons that President Trump and others in our government are now sort of waking up, they've realized how much we've lost in terms of our industrial capacity to be a free and sovereign nation because we've given up so much manufacturing. There are ball bearings. We can't even make a toaster in the United States anymore. So
Right.
This is a national security crisis, and it's sort of why I disagree with the trade court ruling. Is I don't think they understand or they took into consideration the drop off in steel manufacturing. Why is President Trump so keen on getting steel back and being produced? We used to, in the 1950s, the United States dominated the world steel industry. Now we're a small fraction. It's crazy how we've given all that up.
It certainly is, and we have to realize we have a declaration of independence. We don't have a declaration of interdependence, and that's what
Right.
free trade and globalism has resulted in. It's resulted in interdependence, and so we have to be able to pay for the things that we, the people, have demanded from this country. Tariffs are the best way to collect revenue. I'm glad President Trump is so focused on putting necessary tariffs where they belong in the particular countries that have violated our trade agreements, especially China. And, we need to bring those jobs back home and bring that revenue back home. We can use it for a lot of things, whether it's tax cuts in certain areas to help farmers or other people affected by the tariffs, or we could pay down the national debt. But having revenue is a great thing, and we haven't had that as a result of tariffs for a long, long time, like you mentioned way back when in the 1940s.
Well, and I think that people look at the first 120 or so days of the Trump presidency, and he has really been the disruptor in chief. If you look at what's going on in trade right now, every day something seems to change. It is in a state of flux. And when I was in Chicago at the trade show, I ran into a lot of people who were really confused. you have to disrupt it and dislodge it in order to come up with something that is going to be reasonable and to our benefit at the end of the day. So more news at 11 on that one. I think it's going to take several months, if not a full year, till this thing really starts settling down and we have an idea of what we're looking at going forward. Any final thoughts? We've got a minute or so left.
Well, I just want to say that a lot of people seem to be having their hair on fire moments with these tariffs. And it's almost like they want to go back to the days of the NAFTAs in the 1990s. We lost 845,000 jobs as a result of NAFTA just up until 2014, and that's from U.S. public citizen. We lost 3.7 million jobs as a result of China going into the WTO from 2001 to 2018. Do we really want to go back to those types of policies? Yes, there will be a little bit of pain, but we're going to come out on the other side. It's going to be better. We're going to be more prosperous, more powerful, and more independent.
And more balanced. And I think that's what we're all looking for at the end of the day, is something that's more fair, because the biggest lie of it all is free trade. There is no such thing as free trade. Every country out there, starting with the EU, China, they all have industrial policies, and they're all designed to help themselves gain advantage in the international trade space. So looking forward to it. But Roger, we've done it again. We've run out of time. So I'm going to have to sign off here, hour 3. This is Home Talk USA on the King Broadcasting Network. Thank you for joining me, Roger. This is the Made in America Hour. We will be back next week with another exciting program.